Thank you for stopping by and checking out the video. Today I'm talking bike bags. Over the past few years I've been collecting different styles of bike bags, trying to figure out which one works best for me and what situation it's most applicable to. I wanted to share what I've come up with based on my experience. Before I begin, I guess I want to divide up the types of rides that I encounter and where these bags make the most sense. The lineup would be commuting, day rides, and touring. Those are the most cut and dry ways I can put it. I'm going to start with the smallest capacity to the largest. First up would be the Roadrunner Burrito Handlebar Bag. This bag, it kind of is a replacement or an addition to maybe a saddle bag. You can typically throw some tools in it, your phone in it, you have your eyes on it. It's kind of nice in that regard. Limited capacitance, but you can get them in varying sizes. I'll use it in conjunction with a frame bag or a saddle bag. I've put a strap on mine so I can use it as a sling. As I ran it on my road bike with carbon bars and it started to polish off the carbon, so I put a camera strap on it. Shout out to Canon. Nah, just playing. It works very well as a sling too. Next up is the Roadrunner Wedge Frame Bag. It's a half triangle bag or a partial triangle bag. It just kind of blends in well with the rest of the bike because that spot that it sits is kind of like a dead zone in the frame anyways. Personally, I find it to be the most functional, is my preferred choice with whatever bike I would be commuting on proprietarily. Again, it goes well with a handlebar bag just to add a little bit of volume. I end up putting a tool roll in there, spare tube, maybe some gloves depending on what the weather is, maybe a rain cover. You really have a lot of flexibility for what it is. You could use it for a larger ride if you wanted to. It's totally optional if you wanted to sustain your water bottles and not run a full triangle bag. I've used a few styles of these, different qualities. First one I used was this Rafa one. I think it was a promo bag or something. The quality's good. I still have it around someplace. I don't know where it went. What I would end up doing is I would keep that in the frame bag and use it for expandable storage. You know, you're running out someplace, you have a heavier, bulkier jacket perhaps, and you don't want to compress it down to a frame bag. You can take it off and throw it in that. It's expandable storage, super convenient way. So I've ran the Rafa style one. At times it's like, am I loading this thing up too much? The strap's a little narrow. And then I got another cheap one with a Canyon bike and it just kind of fell apart. So I stopped using it. And then I bought the Roadrunner style. And the Roadrunner one is, I'd say it's overbuilt and it should last forever based on the looks of it. My takeaway with this style of bag is it's probably the slickest thing you can have on your bike as far as bike bags and things like that. They're cheap and they just make so much sense. Revelate Rapio Triangle Bag. This is a full triangle bag. It's a medium sized, I think it's 6.5 liters. It's waterproof. It's got 3 sections. It's got an upper level, a lower level. There's Velcro in the middle that holds a floor together that you can undo. Bike packing wise, I think it's a really great bag. Commuting, I think it's overkill. But this bag allows for storage of odd shaped things and heavier things. And it also just kind of fits in the bike very well. Personally, what I do is I keep my tent poles alongside my down tube in the bag. You'd never know they're on the bike. It's the longest continual line or tube on the bike that I can come across. I guess I have a bias towards frame bags. I do prefer frame bags over any other type of bag. I'll live without the water bottle holders. To further go and add a little bit of separation between these bags, let's talk about build quality on them quick too. All of these bags are built really well that I've mentioned so far. The quality tends to be pretty linear throughout the entirety of their product lines that they have. I'd say Revelate is a little bit more robust, but you might really want that extra bit when you're doing some sort of longer ride. It's kind of like if you were to compare it to street clothing or some sort of specialty clothing. If you're doing something that requires that extra bit of durability, you're gonna want to get that sort of thing. It's gonna make sense for the application and the use case. So Revelate is probably a little bit beefier, but at the same time, it has its own look. The Revelate Terrapin Seat Bag. It's a modular seat bag with a removable dry bag and a holster, we'll call it. This bag's cool. You can load it up completely and then take the dry bag off of it and leave the rest of it on the bike. It's pretty convenient if you're kind of on and off the bike, whatever you're doing, or if you're at camp just trying to set up, you don't keep going back to the bike. And there's a lot of other hook points and mounting points on the actual holster itself, so if you wanted to hang a pot or a cup strapped down a rain cover or something, you have the flexibility to do that. My first impression on panniers, these are obnoxiously large, and I kind of stayed away from them. Let me tell you the story about how I got interested in these in the first place. It was the first tour. Alex and I were doing something in Massachusetts, and he did a rack with rear panniers, and he had the Ortlieb Classics, I think they are. They're just like, they're huge. They're like 20 liters each side. Huge capacity on a bike. So he loaded them up, and he overpacked a little bit. And I rode around with them for a little bit as well. The biggest thing I noticed was the aero drag that you'd experience. It wasn't terrible, and you know, you're touring, you're going slower anyhow, but I thought they were neat, but I wasn't sure if I was a huge fan of them. Long story short, Alex liked the panniers, and he ended up going for the gravel panniers because they're a little bit smaller and they offer that same amount of flexibility from the larger ones. When he showed up with those on another ride, I was like, man, they just make sense. You know, if you want to bring like some camera kit or whatever, the flexibility to do other stuff besides just the confined factors of bike bags is nice, you know. If you ever roll up with a full bike bag set, you want to be quick about unloading stuff, like good luck. I know, I've been there. I've ran both setups. Still trying to refine it out a little bit. I decided to pick these up last year, and I'll probably run them again. It'll vary from trip to trip. You know, if you're doing colder climate stuff, I could really see the benefit of having the extra volume, just because more stuff, you know, you just gotta adhere for where you're going and what you're up to. Would I run the gravel panniers all the time? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. It always comes down to the ride. So my thought is you can't really have too many bike bags. I mean, certainly you can, but put some thought into it and figure out what you're after. If you have a hunch on what might work for you, give it a shot and see if it makes sense. But I think having multiple bags for a singular bike or multiple bikes does make a lot of sense. It's kind of like clothing. Final one that I'm gonna go on is the backpack. It's a Chrome Bravo, I believe they call it. I've had it for a few years now. You know, backpacks have a time and place. I think short runs and maybe commuting, they sort of have a spot, but the downside that really gets me with them is, you know, you have this on your back and your back gets sweaty and you show up and it's a mess. Maybe it's not so bad in colder weather, but it's situational. Personally, I use mine for grocery store trips, or if I need to bring an obnoxious amount of stuff and I don't want to load the bike up with panniers and this and that. The convenience factor is high, but the inconvenience factor is also high. So, you know, it's give and take with all of these. Individual reviews or closer looks is something I could do as well. If you have any questions on these particular bags, ask me in the comments section. I'd be happy to answer. I'm still getting acclimated with being on camera and giving longer forms and constructing thoughts out. After every one of these videos, you know, you kind of go back to the drawing board where you can improve. Different styles of videos require different levels of production. The front loading, I mean, I make videos normally, professionally, so it's, you know, I understand the process of it, but it's new in its own regard when you're doing it and you're on both sides of the camera. Anyhow, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.